There we go. Hey, how's it going? Welcome once again to another RCS Live. This is a special RCS Live this week because we are joined by the Bill Weber. How you doing, Bill?
Doing good. Thanks, Nate.
And I believe your official title, if not mistaken, is what? Director of Scheduling Development? Is that the official title?
Yes, that's correct.
I got to make sure I get everybody's title all nice and organized whenever I do these conversations. So thank you so much for joining us. You'll find that Bill is the backbone of RCS in regards to scheduling with version 12, 15, and GSelector. And I've been dying to do this conversation with Bill because he's just such a wealth of information and experience, but also he can kind of give a little bit, kind of peel back the curtain and understand exactly, why we did certain things in GSelector or just music scheduling in general. So the really cool thing about this is that Bill is here to answer your questions. So already, everybody's trying to look at this, Bill. Already we got a bunch of people saying hi across over there. Hello, Meg. I'll throw you in there. V, we're also good to go. Everything sounds good. So yes, everybody's checking in, which is great. So if you have questions for Bill, we're here to answer those questions. So definitely feel free to chat us up on your medium. We are on Facebook Live, Twitch, Periscope, and YouTube. So if you're broadcasting there or you're watching this, you can always chime in. If you're watching this after the fact, don't forget, we have all of our videos are available for you on our archive over at rcsworks.com/RCS-live. You can see all of our videos in the past. And as I said, too, we'll have our chat open to talk with Bill. As always, Bill, I always start off every one of our RCS Lives with our housekeeping section, which is a pun that I just laugh at every single time that I think nobody else does. But as always, don't forget to check your backups. Just a friendly reminder, double check the backup paths are working. Always looking for beta users for Zeta 521.1. That's coming on about a week or so. So there's really, really cool features. So if you want to check those out, or perhaps get on early for the GSelector 5.0 beta, which is coming down the pipeline soon, we're always looking for beta users. And again, you can try out the latest and greatest features from RCS. If you have any questions on the beta program, you can reach out to myself, RCS support, or your local RCS sales representative. In regards to field technician services, it is business as usual for us. And on top of that, don't forget about Feature Friday. Every Friday, we feature one of our products and one of our clients. If you want to be part of that, again, reach out to us on social media. And also one last thing too, Bill, we're looking for a field technician service installation member as well. So if you want to work for us and hang out and talk about, radio, you can definitely apply to that at rcsworks.com. Just a heads up, it is a travel job, but it's a lot of fun and great experience installing all of our RCS products. So now the housekeeping is out of the way, Bill. I thought we would kind of start off by talking about some of your background, because you have a fascinating story in regards to kind of what led you into music scheduling. So I thought I would start there by having you elaborate on kind of what got you in here.
Yeah. I've been interested in music scheduling for a long time. My dad was on the radio in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania for 57 years. And when I was a kid, he used to do TV and radio. And so to see him, sometimes just to spend time with him, I would go into the radio station. And I loved music, I loved radio. And I would start to observe as a kid, a hot clock, circular pie chart up on the wall that he was following. And I would look, and, they'd have a current category, the A's, 7 A's or however many. And, in the early days, it was records, and then it became NAB tape cartridges. And I would watch as he would play one, turn it over, and repeat that for the entire category until he got to the bottom. And then they turn all the carts back over. And, that's how they were rotating music. And I thought that was kind of cool. And I saw all these different kind of manual rotation systems. And so when I was in high school, I wrote a program. It was a mainframe. I was on a Western Union teletype machine, very early days of computers. This is pre-personal computers. So I wrote a very primitive music rotation system. And then when I got to college, it was a little more advanced. I went to Temple University in Philadelphia, and we had punch cards, IBM, punch cards that you would type out and you would submit as a batch. and they would run it. And I wrote a program again that rotated music. And then I was a radio, television, film guy at Tempo, and I got an internship at my favorite radio station in Philadelphia, which was Q102, WIOQ in Philadelphia. And I was a disc jockey, but I also was helped out in the music department and became the assistant music director and eventually the music director. And, you know, we did all these different manual systems. When I came to the station, they were playing albums, and they had, you know, little sheets on the front of the albums, and the DJs would mark the date and time that they played a particular cut. And it was a very crude method of, you know, of scheduling music. And then we got a little tighter with our format, and we had a box, you know, of index cards, 3x5 or 5x7 index cards. And again, on the back of the card, you would write the date and the hour that you played a song. And we had rules, you know, we had don't play 2 ballads back to back and spread the artist by an hour or 2 hours, whatever it was. And we did it by hand. And it started with every disc jockey picking their own music. And, you know, the problem with that is the songs that we didn't think were hip, that we weren't crazy about, they ended up in the slot between the counter and the turntable isolation.
How convenient. How convenient.
So it was one of my jobs to find the songs that went missing. But eventually some guy named Andy Economos came to our radio station in like 1983 when the personal computer, this was pre-personal computer. This was the PDP-11, the digital PDP-11. He comes with this crazy computer and he says, I've got this great system and you should get it. And at first we were like, no, that's not us. And eventually we took the software, and I got very involved in it. And we had, it was on the PC. This is like 83, 84. And the original IBM PC, 4.77 megahertz, you know, a floppy disk. And the beauty of it was such early days that they had an option to put the audit trail to the screen. And I would sit there. It would take about 45 minutes to schedule a day. And at my lunch break, I'd go get a sandwich and I'd sit there and I would watch every decision that the scheduler made. It was so darn slow, you know, that I could do this. And I really got into it and really learned, you know, how it worked, the search depth, you know, the rules, the priorities, you know, all that stuff. And we got Andrew came up with a new product that he called GSelector. And it was for WNEW in New York and us in Philly, where the DJs were still having some involvement in the selection of the music. And we could add a song if we were running short. We could drop a song if we were running long. We could replace songs. Anyway, that evolved into Master Control. The GSelector. It was the paperless studio. So
Eric asking if we can define what a floppy disk is.
I know I have a lot of references to old things here, classic things, but yeah. So and then Andy, just very quickly, Andy offered me a job. And I said, no, I'm a radio guy. I don't want to do this computer software stuff. And, you know, we were like the #1 station, 25 to 49. And, you know,
Casually just put that in, Bill. Go ahead. Yeah.
But, you know, at some point the ratings turned. We were trending down. And, you know, I said, you know, that job, and Andy kept offering me a job. And I'm like, you know, that'd probably be a good idea to get into computers and get out of the crazy business of radio. And so that was 1987, and so to quickly get through the rest of it, when I came, you know, so I was a user of the early versions of Selector, versions 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever. When I got here, it was 10, and then we did 11, and then the one that I got charged with was version 12. So we completely rewrote everything that we had. And we did version 12, which, you know, I'm happy to say became, it was painful to work with floppy disk. But I'm happy to say that V12 evolved into an industry standard. And it was a real pleasure to take everything, that the previous versions of Selector had and all the great ideas from all our clients, or many of them. We didn't get to all of them, but we got to a lot of them.
Yeah.
And do it. And then, that evolved into Selector 15, the Windows version. And then GSelector. So the backstory on GSelector is that we wanted to do a system that was easier, that didn't require as much music scheduling expertise. And so we came up with this notion of goals. So version 12 and version 15, it's all rules. It's all what can't you do. Thank you, Drew Bennett. GSelector.
That is a phenomenal inside joke, Drew. Thank you for that.
Yes, I am a Bruce Springsteen fanatic, as Drew knows. Thank you, Drew. I appreciate that. So, the prior systems to GSelector were all, what don't you want to happen? I don't want, 2 songs by the same artist to play within X minutes or hours. I don't want this. I don't want that. So it was exclusionary. So what we wanted to do with GSelector is invent something where the system automatically tried to spread everything out. And it basically, fundamentally, there's a spread goal, and it's applied to artists, it's applied to songs, it's applied to sound codes, it's applied to energy, whatever. And the system inherently tries to, do a decent job, a good job of spreading things out. And then the people that used it liked it, but what they said is, Friday at 4 o'clock in position 7, I'm getting 2 songs by the same artist too close together. So can you give me the minimum separation rule that I'm used to from 12 and 15? Can you give me that as a backstop that I can use in conjunction with the spread goals? And so that's how Goal Selector evolved into GSelector, which really was a merge of the old school legacy rules and the newfangled spread goal. And I think what we've ended up is kind of the best of both worlds.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So it's been a fun trip here.
Absolutely. And by the way, I was laughing earlier, and you were saying how when you were in college, you were writing, music scheduling software. And I was laughing because when I was in college, I was trying to learn version 12 Selector. Just a slightly different, experience, I guess you can say.
You're making me feel old, Nate.
I'm not trying to. So I thought for today, Bill, by the way, fascinating story. And this is one of the reasons I want to have you on, because I love hearing that story. But I thought we'd kind of talk about, because you've evolved with this software, what are some, we're currently right now, we just released GSelector 4.90. We have 5.0 coming up very shortly as well. So this is a constantly evolving piece of software. What are some things do you feel that is the Bill Weber tips and tricks, things you don't think that enough programmers are utilizing? And I should point out, by the way, that when I say that Bill has gone through everything, he's gone through everything. I remember when I met him in Philly, actually, I think it was when I first met you, during a GSelector Power User Conference, which, by the way, that concept's not lost on me. COVID put a little delay on that idea I had, or at least we're going to steal from you. What are some things that we have here in GSelector that you feel like users are not utilizing?
Yeah, well, I'm a believer with currents of slotting whatever you can, just because if you can get that predictable, ideal mechanical lay-in with the perfect history maps, the jigsaw, history maps, do it where you can do it. And you're showing here the category group settings page, and one of the features that I think people don't know about widely is the slotted constant order option. And basically it's you don't need it for the A's, but for the B's and the C's, where you may have conflicts with the same artist, in both A and in B, or A and in C, or in some cases, all of the above.
Justin Bieber, top 40. It's happening.
Yeah, right. So, and what it does is it allows a wobble or wiggle in the laying in of the B's and the C's, where each song can play one position early in its normal slot or one position late. So for that local spot, you get a little aberration in the history map, but you're able to work out the conflict with the artist or the vocalist. So I know you've shown that before in I believe in one of your training videos.
Yes, you can see those videos here in the archive, by the way.
Yeah, so that's something. As you asked me, what are some of the things that I think people may not know about? And it's interesting because I'm so caught up with all the new features, right? Working, as you said, on 5.0, and we're actually planning right now 5.1.0. So we're even looking further out. But some of the other things, basically kind of what I said, which is the fundamental part of GSelector, which is using the spread goals to try to spread everything apart. I'll give you a good example is in the old days, in the 80s at IOQ, I used special artists like crazy. If you remember special artists, basically it's a artist minimum separation, but for every artist as opposed to the category in general. And I would go in there and I would say, I want 6 hours on this artist, and I want 8 hours on this artist, and 12 hours on this artist, depending on the natural turnover of the artist. How many songs do they have? What categories are they in? How are those categories requested on the clock demand? And the problem is I would do it and it would be perfect for this week. Then we would get to next week and all of a sudden Bruce Springsteen would have a current, or, Rod Stewart or whoever. And, my 8 hours spread on Rod Stewart wouldn't work anymore if Rod Stewart had a current. So then I had to go in there and I had to adjust the special artist. Well, the nice part about, GSelector's spread artist or spread vocalist is it automatically adjusts the attempt of how far it tries to spread based on this week's today's category assignments and clock your clocks for the day. So basically I would use the spread goals as much as possible and then use those legacy rotation rules as a backstop. What is the absolute minimum that you'll take either with artists or the day-to-day, yesterday, prior day part rotation, hour rotation, play window, whatever it happens to be. You can set some minimum, but do use the spreads to attempt to spread things out. I think that's the happy medium of GSelector.
Absolutely. Right, Will? Will's checking in, by the way. So, right, Will, just, obviously the idea here is that we start with the goals and then we kind of counter and say, we want you to do this and this, but don't do that and that, so to speak.
Exactly.
What's another, before I forget, by the way, Bill, I forgot to mention this earlier, we're going to tease a brand new feature in 5.0 in just a couple minutes here. So that's my one teaser for today. So we're going to showcase some, we can't have Bill on here and not showcase something we never seen before. So that's coming down the pipeline just a couple minutes here.
I look forward to you demonstrating it. That's awesome.
What's another Bill Weber, tip and trick here that's something you think that is not overly utilized?
Percentage participation on attributes and participants, particularly in this world in CHR of a rapper being on 6 different songs. And realistically, trying to get some sort of spread. But right where your cursor is there, you basically say that the contribution by this vocalist is less than 100%. It's 50% or it's 25%. I mean, there could be 7 people right on a record. And, this is just a very good way. I remember this coming up. It was, one of our users groups, and somebody said, hey, I'm struggling trying to fit all this music in. And he said, what if you could say that this contribution was 50% or 25% or whatever it is. And it was a great idea, and we implemented it right away. But as I look at databases that come in, and I load like 10 databases a day, chasing bugs and working on enhancements. And so I see a lot of client databases, and this is something I think could be used more. I don't see it used that much. I mean, obviously some people are using it, but
the two examples, yeah, Bill, to translate, for example, top 40 was a DJ Khalid, who has got another one. You might want to have, I interpret him almost like a tone sometimes with his songs, where you might not need to have 100% as him as the vocalist, but you want to acknowledge his role in the song. I also had another top 40 user back in the day when Justin Bieber was on, again, the current, power, recurrent, and then, of course, power, sub-power, new music, that type of thing. And it was one of the songs, I remember off the top of my head, but he was in the interlude, right? It was his Spanish-speaking song where he did the interlude part. And I was talking to this program director, and really it boils down to, I had a video on this by talking about identifying what you're trying to do in GSelector. I was trying to get him to admit that even though Justin Bieber is singing on the song, because he's only in the interlude,
right,
he doesn't need to be considered as the primary vocalist, or as you're saying, 100% of vocalist on that song.
Yep. So that's a good one. Another one is right above where you are there is in the scalar section is fallback. The ability to and fallback is not enabled, but we can enable it just to show it real quick.
Features, attributes here.
Yep. Right. And so like to say energy, tick energy fallback. Okay. And so you have a song that is a 5 for your format, but it's really like a 4.5, right? And so you want to normally treat it at a 5, but again, if you get into a difficult position to schedule, then you'll compromise and treat it as a 4, which is it's easier to schedule a 4 than a 5 typically. So that's just an example of fallback, and you can set a fallback threshold as to where it falls back. And so it's just one of those things that, again, I don't see used that often, but I think could help people in tight scheduling situations.
Absolutely. And yeah, I'll be the first one to admit, as you can see, I don't normally use fallback on my section. So you can see go ahead.
No, there's a gazillion features, and obviously you don't want to, throw the kitchen sink. You don't want to use everything, but that is a potential problem solver depending on your format and your situation. Another one would be platooning categories. That's a relatively recent feature. I think you and John went over that at some point.
It was actually, we had a user-driven question just last week, I believe it was. And so I made a point to kind of sneak it in. But go ahead, please go ahead.
Well, just the old rest and rotate approach, where you say you have a category and a category group, which has 3 categories in it or 4 categories in it. And you can, in the 3 category example, you could be playing 2 of them at any time. And in the 4 category example, you could be playing 3 of them at any time. And then one of those categories is always resting. So you do a rest and rotate scheme in an effort to keep your material fresh. Now, a real tight, 200 song, a 70 song format can't do that. But, some of our clients have larger libraries. They might have 1,000 songs depending on where they are. Or, back in believe it or not, I had 4,000 songs back in the day. And we would do this. We would rest some of our material so that, we would try to play it in all the day parts. And then we would bring it back either after a week or a month or whatever. And then it would sound very fresh and the listeners would be excited. So, we don't have to get into all the details of how it works, but this platoon feature is very strong. And another way of doing a similar thing is with packets. I think a lot of people don't know of the different packet types that we have. Now, back in the day for us in our manual system, in our box, a packet was actually a paper clip. I don't even have a paper clip in my drawer, but it was a paper clip over
Going back to floppy disks.
Right, it was over 2 or 3 cards. So a high-tech packet would include the ability to set a number of spins for each song in the packet. You know, you can say, play this 5 times, then play this next song 5 times, and so forth. Or you can do it by days. You can set that sprint type to days, and you could say for 5 days or 7 days, I want to play this song, and then I want to play another song. Or you could do a share, like if you have a studio version and a live version, you know, on a classic rock station, and you want to play the studio version 3 times to the live version once, you could do that also. So that's just another one that I know people use packeting, but I don't think necessarily that they're aware of the different packet
Scale
types.
of packeting. Yeah, that's a great one. What do you say, Rob? What do you say we dive into some new features? Think that'd be fun to do, Bill?
Absolutely.
So we have, I'm going to jump to my little, my special little beta machine here for a second. You might see some things that are different here too, but let's talk a little bit about, you know, what this feature is and why we did it.
Yeah, well, very quickly, 5.0.0, we're about to start regression on it. Literally, either you know, in a couple of days, we'll start regressing it. And regressing it, we test all or as many of the functions of the program as we have to make sure that everything's working. So, but in terms of what's changed, we basically upgraded all of our tech tools. You know, you can't live in the past. You can't be stagnant. You have to keep up with Microsoft's latest operating systems and versions of .NET. And we have various tools that we use. So we've updated all of that stuff. We've freshened the look a bit. There's a toolbar strip that's in your screen right there. We have new toolbar icons. You can control the size of those icons, make them bigger, make them smaller, depending on how great your eyesight is. That's in appearances.
That's right.
Right, and then style right there. Yep. So you can make it. There you go. See, it auto sizes, and you're showing the dark side skin. So so a little different look for GSelector. I mean, we do have skins now, but we've spent a little more time making the skins look good. The different skins. The big new feature for 5.0.0 is the custom song link window, and you know, up until now, we've had a static song window where we have designed which fields are there and in which order they appear. And the beauty of the custom song link window is you design it. You can decide what fields, only have the fields that you're interested in the order that you want them. You can divide them up into these different panels, these attribute panels. And then there's the static panels that we had before, like the history map, which is in the lower right-hand corner, and the album image. Those you can place, but you basically design your own screen. So I'm very excited about this. It's kind of like bringing back custom field order, you know, from the old days.
Yeah.
From V12. And I mean, you can have a browse format, of course, today with only the fields that you want, and you just tab from field to field. But we didn't offer effectively that customization on the song and link window. And now we have it in 5.0.0. So
yeah. And this is, go ahead. Sorry, Bill.
No, go.
So what you're seeing here, by the way, is what Bill was describing. Essentially, this is, I created 2 profiles when I was talking with Bill about this, right? The idea about this whole experience and going back to that version 12 is there are just certain metadata fields that certain users need to gravitate towards more frequently and others not so much. And so the idea with this window is you can start to create layouts on your particular workflow. Notably, if you have, let's say, those additional fields, right? Those are kind of buried in the sub tab because many users use them, some don't. So what I did here, this is kind of like I was telling Bill earlier, this was just a kind of close, similar, not the same, but a similar layout with all of the modules open for what you're used to traditionally. And you can see here, there are 2 options here. There's a layout, and I have these 2 saved. If I jump to RCS Live 2, this is kind of one that the way that I interpret users kind of utilizing, customizing this window. The idea is that there's more metadata up front and easy accessible. That's the idea here. So you can see I have that main field, that title artist is still up here in the left, but then I have, the media, right? For me personally, I kind of use that media as a split between global and station specific settings. Do I really need to know the runtime front and center? Maybe I don't. So I kind of personally, I bury it to the left. I also have that same user defined fields that are here, right? That I might, let's say if I have special coding in here I want to see, I can have that easily accessible now. The multi-station's a great one. If you're finding yourself with, a PD of multiple stations, you have those songs that are kind of hybrid across genres, you might want to just bury it kind of down the bottom left. You can definitely do that. And by the way, I fully empower you to jump between two different profiles, right? You could have kind of a global profile or a station specific profile. The beauty is that with this customization, you can do all of that at your fingertips. And just do you want to kind of showcase briefly, Bill, how we edit some of these modules?
Well, I would probably save that for another one where we go into the details of how to use this, probably when we get closer to the release. But here's another use case, Nate, is imagine you have an assistant or an intern who's helping you out, and you want them to have access to songs and links, but not all the fields, only 6 or 7 fields. So you could have a very simple screen. I mean, this is awesome, and this is the way you want it, right? But imagine just trying to scope down the person who started on Monday, and not overwhelm them, and you come up with a layout that has 7 fields. So it can be something incredibly complex, a really cool layout like you have here, or it could be the opposite and just a like having a browse format with 6 fields, and just I don't want to use the word dumb it down, you know what I'm saying. Simplify.
No, it's listen, I'm a big believer, as Eric's saying there. I'm a big believer in sometimes subtraction is addition. That's absolutely, I'm a big believer in that. By the way, Bill, so we're on a slight delay here between you and me versus the live feed. And what I like to do is we get kind of the 2-minute warning. I want to get last call in for questions. So if you have any questions for Bill, now is the time, no matter what your medium is. I got my chat open over here. So if you do have a question for Bill, any topic you want covered or anything, not really covered, I shouldn't say, but anything that you just want to kind of ask Bill, now is the time to get in because of the delay. I want to make sure we get to all your questions answered. So, right, Rob? Any questions there? Will, questions, let me know. Sorry, Bill. So again, this is a very customized window available in 5.0. And remind me, what's the rough timeline for the release of GSelector 5.0 again?
I'm going to look it up so I don't lie to you here. Give me 1 second.
We always use it.
Yeah, we have a dev portal, and the current schedule has beta for 5.00 at the very end of August, beginning of September.
So these are things, if you want to kind of get on the latest and greatest of 5.0, you can definitely let us know. We'll tell you, don't worry. We're going to have an RCS live on this, and we'll showcase some of the features and all of that. So,
and just very quick, there's lots of great features in 4.90, and I know a lot of people haven't upgraded to that yet. We've got flex clocks, right? Half-hour clocks, 4-hour clocks, custom user-defined attributes, which is great. You can have, instead of just the 10 user-defined fields, you can have as many as you want now, practically. We've got a bunch of jobs. We've got an association reports job and a generate schedule job, day part override in the clock assignment grid, kind of like the policy override from 12 and 15. So yeah, there's really some great stuff in 4.90, which is available now. Service Pack 1 is out, and I'm about to work with the guys on Service Pack 2. release
that's
preview
awesome.
1. So yeah.
And by the way, Bill, if only there was somebody who did an RCS live video showcasing some of these new features in GSelector 490. And oh, wait, there is. Yes, there is a video, just so you know. It is on our archive. Just search, I think it's just GSelector 490 new features. I think it's what it's called. So
Cool.
definitely a video there. All right, so very last call for questions for Bill. I think we're good to go over here. But again, Bill, thank you so much for the time. This was just so informative, and we've been trying to get you on here for a while. So thank you for taking the time and all showing us all the world of GSelector. So thank you.
My pleasure. Good to see everybody.
Awesome. All right, Bill, we'll sign off for right now. We'll see you next Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. As always, this is RCS Live. I'm Nate. I'm Bill. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody.